Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I'm Dr. Radha from IIT Bhadal. Today we will be talking on module Organizational Culture from the paper Organizational Behavior. In this module, we will learn about the organizational culture concept, the characteristics of the organizational culture, levels of the culture, uniformity and functions of the culture, origin of the culture, and sustaining the organizational culture. What is organizational culture? Culture is imperceptible power of any organization. When thinking and actions of the employees are institutionalized, an organizational culture is deemed to have taken birth. Culture guides the employees. Organizational culture is not inborn. It is to be first created and later nurtured over a period of time. Environment and demographic factors play a decisive role in developing the culture. Culture of an organization is informal in nature and relates to the shared way of living. It's a common binding factor in the organization. Value system is the cornerstone of the organizational culture. Let's have a look at some definition of the culture. According to Sheen, culture is a pattern of basic assumptions invented, discovered, or developed by a given group as it learns to cope with its problems of external adoption and internal integration, worked well enough to be considered valuable and therefore to be taught to new members as a correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems. It is now clear that culture is about combination of the factors that are learnt through interaction with the environment, and organizational culture stresses on sharing of norms and values that guide the employee's behavior. Culture guides the employee's behavior within the organization and defines a code of conduct outside the organization. Characteristics of organizational culture. An organizational culture is identified through certain characteristics. For example, individual autonomy. It is a degree of responsibility and freedom to take initiative for decision making by employees. Structure. It refers to the degree to which organization creates clear objectives and performance expectations and includes degree of direct supervision which is used to control the employee's behavior. Support of management. This is the degree to which the management provides clear communication, assistance, warmth and support to subordinates. Then identity. This is the extent to which the employees identify themselves with the organization as a whole rather than with the work group to which they belong. Performance reward system. It is another characteristics. This is the degree to which the reward system in the organization, for example, salary hike, promotions or recognition, is based on employee performance rather than on the unfair practices like seniority, favoritism, etc. Then tolerance to conflict is another characteristics. It refers to the degree of conflict present in the relationships between colleagues and the work groups. It also refers to the extent to which the employees are encouraged to air their conflicts and criticism openly. Risk tolerance. It refers to the degree to which employees are encouraged to be innovative, aggressive, and risk-taking. Communication patterns. The degree to which the organization communication is restricted to formal hierarchy of authority. Orientation towards outcomes. It refers to the extent to which the management focuses on final outcomes rather than the techniques and processes used to arrive at these outcomes. People orientation. Important characteristic. It is a degree to which the management decisions take into consideration the impact of outcomes on the people within the organization. levels of culture, also known as the learning of the culture. There are three levels of the culture at which it is learnt. One is observable artifacts of the culture. These are the symbols of the culture in the physical and social work environment. These are visible and most accessible. These include founders of the organization, their leadership styles, and ethical behaviors. Employees are expected to follow and copy their work ethics. This also includes rites and rituals, which are the recurring activities that are used at certain occasions to inspire the actions and understanding of organizational members. For example, taking out the colors ceremony during oath taking is an important event in the defense services. The colors ceremony reminds soldiers of the excellent work done and the sacrifices made by their predecessors. Rituals are the systems of rites like departmental song, colors, and company picnic or retirement dinners. Cultural symbols are an object, act, or event that serves to convey the cultural gist. Corporate uniform, tie, buttons, they are the examples of the cultural symbols. Then there is saga. Saga or story. It is a laudable story of achievements. Sagas, also known as legends. These are significant because these are used to tell new members the real mission of the organization, how the organization works, and how an individual can fit into the organizational settings. Then there are shared values. The values that can be terminal values that reflects the end state of existence, and instrumental values, the means to achieve terminal values. Being hardworking is an instrumental value and it may lead to the outcome of achieving solace. It is a terminal value. Shared values are inherent in the very spirit of the organizational culture. It helps turn routine activities into valuable, vital actions, bind the firm to the main values of the society that may provide a very distinctive source of competitive advantage. Values should be linked with the work. A person should feel that he is producing an umbrella that maintains the health of the society. He is not only working for the material gains but for the betterment of society. Therefore, an organization must build up a dominant and a lucid set of shared values so that an individual behaves in the manner which is in sync with the organizational philosophy. Then there are common assumptions. Common assumptions are fallout of shared value system and apparent artifacts of culture. Over some period of time, employees form a common culture among themselves. For example, in Bajaj Automobiles, every employee ensures to reach well in time to the plant because punctuality is a common assumption there and it is embedded in their organizational culture. Indians believe in truth and non-violence, so it is an assumption of our national culture. Now coming to the uniformity of the culture, it's commonly presumed that organization has a uniform culture throughout. It means that employees with different backgrounds interpret the culture in the similar way. But it's not always true. There have been different types of the cultures that have been identified so far. For example, dominant culture and subculture. A dominant culture is a set of core values shared by a majority of an organization's employees. Dominant culture helps to guide the day-to-day behavior of employees. A subculture is a set of values shared by a small minority of organization's members. In the subculture, core values of the dominant culture are retained but are modified to reflect the particular unit's situation. An organization must have a strong dominant culture. If subcultures become stronger, these will come into conflict with the dominant culture. As a result, the dominant culture will become weak and the concept of shared behavior will no longer be effective. Then there are strong culture and weak cultures. An organization culture can be strong or weak. Strong culture has shared values and strong leadership. It's always widely shared and it is intensely held by its members who show a sense of deep commitment towards culture. A weak culture is the reverse of the strong culture. A strong culture leads to reduced turnover and positive employee attitude. Major drawback of the strong culture is that it leads to groupthink, collective blind spots, and resistance to change and innovation. Another type of subcultures that have been found are mechanistic and organic culture. In mechanistic type of culture, the values of bureaucracy are retained. Emphasis is given to specialization, flow of authority from top to lower levels, and well-defined communication channels. This culture can result into loyalty of employees, but interdepartmental rivalry does exist. This culture also resists change and innovation. Organic culture, it is a contrast of mechanistic culture. Stress is on flexibility, consultation, change and innovation. There are no well-defined communication channels, departmental boundaries, hierarchies of authority, or formal rules and regulations. The whole staff of the organization acts as a team. Another type is authoritarian and participative culture. Authoritarian culture is characterized by centralization of power, stress on discipline, and punishment for disobedience. It is assumed that leader knows what is good for the organization. This type of culture discourages professionalism because professionals consider themselves as equals. The participative culture is based on the assumption that if all people working in the organization participate in decision making, then they are more likely to be committed to the decision that has been taken rather than to those decisions which are imposed on them by autocratic leaders. Group problem solving always leads to better decisions because several minds working together are always better than single mind working alone. Another type of subcultures are national culture and organizational culture. Organizational culture is always influenced by the culture of the country, irrespective of the origin of the company. If there's a clash between organizational and national culture, the organizational culture generally prevails. For example, multinational companies having operations in India, they announce holidays as per the Indian festivals. Now, what are the functions that organizational culture serves? Organizational culture gives its members an organizational identity. It facilitates collective commitment. It promotes systems stability. It shapes behaviors by helping members make sense of their surroundings. It provides a boundary to the organization. Culture facilitates the generation of commitment to something larger than one's individual self interest. Culture helps organizational members stick to conformity and expected mode of behavior. There are certain dysfunctions of the culture. For example, barrier to change. When the business environment is stable, the consistency of employees' behavior is an asset for the organization. But when the environment becomes dynamic, the consistent behavior becomes a problem as the employees try to resist the changes in the environment. Barrier to diversity. Strong cultures put a lot of pressure on employees to conform to the accepted values and styles of the organization. Strong cultures do not accept the fact that people from different backgrounds bring unique strengths to the company. And this proves to be a barrier in the diversity management. Barrier to mergers and acquisitions. In the recent years, cultural compatibility has become a primary concern during mergers and acquisitions. Strong cultures of the two merging companies create problems of acceptability of the other culture. Same is true of acquisitions. Origin of organizational culture. The vision of the founders and various functions of the organization create culture. The beliefs and traditions are the foundations of the organizational culture. The mission and vision of founder members, their hard work, competitive character, and the way of life is highly significant, as all this establishes cultural values of any organization. There are certain steps in the creation of the culture. A single person, founder, designs a scheme for a new venture. The founder brings in one or more other key people and creates a core group having the same vision as that of the founder. That is, all in the core group believe that the idea is a good one, is workable, and is worth running some risk for. The founder core group starts to create an organization by raising funds, obtaining patents, locating lands, and designing buildings. At this point, there are others who are brought into the organization and a common history begins to be built. The founders have a major impact on the organization's early culture. They don't have any restrictions of the past traditions or ideologies. As new enterprises have small size, it becomes easy for the founders to exercise their will on the organization members. The founders have their own prejudices regarding the fulfillment of original ideas. The organization culture results from interaction between founders' biases and assumptions and what the original members who were employed by founders learnt from them. Sustaining the organizational culture. The organizational culture can be sustained by selection. Standardized procedures should be used to hire right people for right jobs. Experts should try to screen out those whose value system does not conflict with that of the organization. Organizations must design a comprehensive process of selection criteria and select a team who can employ right people for the right jobs. The vision, mission, and policy of a sound organization must not be bypassed while selecting the people for work performance. People who don't have core values of an organization must not be appointed because one day they might destroy the very foundation of the value system of the organization. Top management has a major impact on the organizational culture. It is a duty of the management to lay down organizational mission which is achievable. It's a duty of the managers to ensure that all workers respect the organizational culture and run the organization as per its philosophy. It's therefore important that managers play a significant role in keeping the values, behaviors, and opinions of the organizational members under control and guide them appropriately. Leaders in the organization should pay continuous attention to maintain the established standards and send clear signals to all the members as to what is expected of them. Socialization. Employees should be properly inducted in the organization. Organization policy should lay down the procedure. Individual employees should be briefed on the organization structure, his department, and the immediate superior to whom he has to report. Training and development programs, promotional cadres should be planned on a regular basis so that an appropriate message is passed on to the employees. It is the duty of the senior managers to ensure that organizational culture is enriched. During induction, the employees receive a positive signal of the level of organizational culture. Employees who fail to adopt to the organization's culture are called non-conformist and are further put through an intensive training programs. This program involves 3 stages: pre-arrival stage, the encounter stage, and metamorphosis stage. Pre-arrival stage. In this stage, the values, attitudes, personality, and learning aptitude of the employee are assessed to drive the individual towards organizational culture. It's a diagnosis stage and identifies in an individual the possibilities of adaptation to the organization's culture. In encounter stage, the encounter stage refers to the induction process in which a person joins the company and is put through the job. He compares his expectations and the image that he had formed with the organizational setup. If the expectations are far from reality, they are expected to learn and follow organizational value system. Those who modify and learn are taken into the mainstream of the organization, and those who resist have to quit the organization for being a misfit. The metamorphosis stage is the consolidation stage where individuals learn the values, norms, and culture of the organization. Individuals acquire the skills required for the job performance, adapts to the new role, and get fine-tuned to the organization's way of work life. Changing organizational culture. Under some critical circumstances, the existing culture may become undesirable, giving rise to the need of a new culture. Some of such circumstances can be a major crisis like financial setback, cost cutting, loss of key customers, or technological breakthrough. When a top executive leaves the organization and a new leadership takes over, era of a new culture sets in. In young and small organizations, the culture can be easily changed. Weak culture is easier to change than a strong culture. While changing the culture of the organization, some of the points should be taken for the consideration. The top management should become the positive role model through their own behavior. Culture is learnt through stories and rituals, etc. The old ones should be replaced by the new ones which are in vogue. Adding a new executive at the top is a powerful strategy to change the culture. The socialization process should be redesigned to align with the new values. The reward system establishes and reinforces the cultural behaviors. So, this should also align with and support new culture. Unwritten norms and beliefs should be replaced with formal written rules and regulations. And finally, liberal use of the job rotations should be made to shake current subculture. Now, what are the practices that contribute to enrich the organizational culture? There are certain practices. For example, job analysis should be done periodically. An individual should be encouraged in public for good work done. Job requirements should be clearly defined. Celebrate festivals that employees greatly value. Publicize stories, encourage hero worship among the employees. Organize social functions, ensure quality decisions. Show concern to all employees. Encourage innovative ideas and reward them. Lay down promotion policy, create a healthy and competitive work environment, ensure quality of work life. So students, let's now summarize what we have learned in this module. Culture is invisible power of any organization. Culture guides the employees. Organizational culture is not inborn. It is to be created and later nurtured over a period of time. Organizational culture comes into existence due to philosophy and beliefs of the founder team. It is passed on to successive employees. It is learnt through shared values, sagas, stories, rites, rituals, and assumptions. Top management plays a major role in creating and sustaining a culture. Organizational culture has subcultures as its parts. A strong culture can prove to be a liability for the organization due to problems it can possess. It includes resistance to change and problems in the diversity management. There are different types of the cultures identified so far: dominant and subculture, strong and weak culture, mechanistic and organic culture, and national culture. Due to dynamic external environment, sometimes it becomes inevitable to change the organizational culture. Changing the culture is a long and a tedious process, and it may take years to properly implement the new organizational culture. Thank you.